We begin with a disturbing development in the search for a young Vancouver woman in Los Angeles. Nearly 3 weeks after Elisa Lam went missing,
February 19, 2013, a routine maintenance check turned into a nightmare when a missing woman was found floating in a rooftop tank at a hotel in Los Angeles. Her final moments had already gone viral. These are missing persons who captured their final moments. April 1st, 2014, two Dutch women, Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, laced up their hiking boots and set out on the El Pianista Trail in Boquete, Panama, a route known for its breathtaking views but also its unpredictable terrain. What began as an ordinary day of adventure would soon spiral into one of the most puzzling missing person cases of the decade, drawing investigators from two continents and sparking a decade of speculation. Chris, 21, and Lisanne, 22, were more than just travel partners. They were best friends. Their trip to Panama was both a graduation celebration and a chance to give back by volunteering with local children. With backgrounds in art education and applied psychology, they were responsible, driven, and full of hope. They'd saved for months, moved in together, and even worked side by side at a small Dutch cafe to make their dream adventure possible. March 15, 2014, their journey through Panama began with sightseeing and Spanish lessons before settling in Boquete. By late March, the pair stayed with a host family while preparing for their volunteer work. The El Pianista Trail, an alluring path through misty cloud forests on the slopes of Baru Volcano, caught their interest. April 1st, after a possible brunch with two Dutch men, or perhaps accompanied by a local dog, they set off for what should have been a routine hike. The last normal photo on Lisanne's recovered camera, timestamped around 1 p.m., shows Chris crossing a small stream, one of several cheerful images from the summit. But by 4:39 p.m., something had gone terribly wrong. Chris's iPhone 4 attempted a 112 emergency call, followed minutes later by Lisanne's Samsung Galaxy S3 at 4:51 p.m. Neither call connected. There was no cell reception in the dense jungle, and the phones showed a flurry of failed emergency attempts over the next few days, 77 in total, each growing increasingly desperate. When both women missed a scheduled meeting with their local guide the next day, concern spread quickly. The host family's dog had returned home alone, and messages went unanswered. By April 6th, their parents had arrived in Panama with Dutch investigators, sniffer dogs, and a $30,000 reward, launching an intensive international search. Days turned into weeks, with no sign of the missing hikers. Then, 10 weeks after their disappearance, a local woman discovered Lisanne's blue backpack along the Culebra River near Alto Romero, far from the main trail. Strangely, despite Panama's notorious rainy season, the bag appeared clean and dry, containing both women's phones, sunglasses, cash, clothes, and Lisanne's camera. Locals insisted it hadn't been there the day before, fueling suspicion but yielding no concrete answers. The real breakthroughs came from Lisanne's Canon camera and the phone logs. While the early photos showed normal sightseeing, the later images painted a haunting picture. April 8th, between 1 and 4 a.m., the camera took 90 photos, most of them black frames or fragments of leaves and branches, but some looked deliberate, like a plastic bag tied to a branch, a mirror placed carefully on a rock, and a chilling close-up of Chris's head. One photo, however, was missing, number 50, sparking endless debate over whether someone deleted it and why. Days later, search teams made a chilling discovery along the riverbanks: a foot still inside a boot, part of a pelvis, and dozens of scattered bone fragments. DNA testing confirmed what everyone feared. Chris and Lisanne were gone. But even in death, the mystery grew darker. Lisanne's bones still carried bits of skin, while Chris's were stark white, showing high levels of phosphorus that couldn't be explained by the soil around them. The investigation's focus shifted repeatedly. Panamanian authorities initially treated the case as homicide, then abduction, before finally closing it in March 2015 with a ruling of accidental death. Dutch forensic teams largely agreed, pointing to the rugged terrain, 30 to 40-meter cliffs, and swift river currents as likely explanations for the scattered remains and survival timeline. The families, while devastated, accepted this conclusion and laid their daughters to rest, yet the public's skepticism never faded. Over the years, the case has attracted wave after wave of investigation, both official and amateur, and various theories have continued to emerge. Some suspected foul play, citing the staged appearance of the backpack, the strange photos, and the scattered remains. Others pointed to the phone records and camera evidence as proof of a prolonged struggle for survival, not instant death. Some theories even involved organ trafficking or bizarre love triangles. However, the most accepted theory remains that of a tragic accident. Perhaps one woman was injured, the other tried to seek help, and both succumbed to exposure and starvation. The most recent investigation suggested the possibility of misdirection by someone encountered on the trail, leading the women far from safety. But in the end, whether they fell victim to a tragic misadventure or something more sinister, their story serves as a haunting reminder of nature's dangers and the fragility of human life in unforgiving environments. As the investigation continues, their families have found closure, but the world remains captivated by the unanswered questions. The El Pianista Trail, once an adventure path, now stands as a solemn memorial to two lives lost too soon and a mystery that may never be fully solved. But if you think this mystery is chilling, wait until you hear about the next case where a woman disappeared and her last trace was caught on camera.
Nothing panned out.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
She's been missing for more than 2 years.
10 years ago.
12 long years.
13 years later.
14 years.
January 24th, 2006, Jennifer Kessa, a bright 24-year-old with a promising career and loving family, vanished without a trace in Orlando, Florida. What unfolded next would become one of the most baffling missing persons cases in modern history. Jennifer had recently returned from a vacation in the Virgin Islands with her boyfriend Robert Allen. She spent that Monday at work, called her family as usual, and spoke to Robert around 10 p.m. before going to bed. The next morning, Jennifer failed to call or text Robert before work, a routine she never missed. And then, his calls went straight to voicemail. When Jennifer didn't show up for an important meeting, her employer contacted her parents. They immediately sensed something was wrong. Jennifer was the most reliable person they knew. A call to her condominium manager confirmed her black Chevy Malibu was missing from its usual spot. Her parents rushed from Tampa to Orlando, finding Jennifer's condo eerily normal. The shower was still wet, her bed unmade, and a damp towel lay draped over the sink. It appeared she had gotten ready for work and left as usual, but never made it far. That evening, family and friends began distributing missing person flyers. The search for Jennifer was officially on. 2 days later, a break came when a resident of a nearby apartment complex recognized Jennifer's car from news coverage. It had been abandoned just over a mile from her home. Surveillance cameras from the complex captured a person of interest parking the car at noon on the day Jennifer disappeared. The footage, however, proved agonizingly useless. The camera only took still photos every 3 seconds, and in each crucial frame, the suspect's face was perfectly obscured by a gatepost. Law enforcement and even NASA struggled to identify the person after enhancing the video, only determining they were between 5'3" and 5'5" tall. One reporter dubbed them the luckiest person of interest ever. A police dog traced a scent from the car back to Jennifer's apartment complex, suggesting the person who abandoned the car returned to the scene of the abduction. But the trail went cold. Investigators turned their focus to Jennifer's acquaintances, like an ex-boyfriend, who was devastated by their breakup, but he was quickly ruled out. Attention then shifted to the construction workers renovating her complex. Jennifer had complained to her family about being harassed and catcalled by some of them. Many were undocumented and living in vacant units while working. Police interviewed as many of the 100 workers as possible, but found no solid leads. The theory that one or more could have committed the crime without others finding out seemed unlikely, yet suspicion lingered. At Jennifer's workplace, one co-worker in particular raised concern, a married man named Johnny Campos. He had shown interest in Jennifer, but she'd made it clear she wasn't interested. Afterward, he seemed resentful, even jealous of her boyfriend Robert, and upset about her recent vacation with him. On the morning Jennifer vanished, Campos arrived at work late and appeared unusually nervous, claiming he'd been stopped for a traffic ticket, a story no one could verify. The next day, he made a chilling remark to a colleague, saying Jennifer was probably eaten by alligators already. Despite the red flags, police eventually ruled him out as a suspect. For years, the case went nowhere. Jennifer's credit cards were never used, her phone stayed off, and it was as if she had vanished into thin air. Still, her family never stopped searching, chasing every lead and fighting for access to the files that might hold the truth. 2019, a legal battle granted them 16,000 pages of case files, revealing a 7-year gap in the investigation. They also discovered a tip about a man dumping a rolled-up carpet in Lake Fisher on the day Jennifer disappeared, a lead that yielded nothing after a thorough search. A breakthrough finally came nearly 2 decades later. October 2025, Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigators announced they had found DNA evidence previously untested. The list of potential suspects had been narrowed to just a few individuals, and the case was officially no longer considered cold. Jennifer's parents, Drew and Joyce, shared the news with mixed emotions. After years of heartbreak and frustration, there was finally hope for answers. They also began working with a production company on a documentary to bring Jennifer's story to a wider audience. Despite the passage of time, Jennifer's family remains determined. Her father, Drew, says,
"How do you decide as a parent when the right time is to give up the search for your child? You don't."
Her mother, Joyce, adds,
"I'm forever grateful for that last conversation I had with Jen. I hold on to that memory, her voice, and her laugh, and I have the hope that I'll hear it again."
The search for Jennifer Kess continues. And now, with new evidence and renewed focus, her family hopes closure may finally be within reach. But if you thought this case was baffling, wait until you hear about the next missing person who vanished under equally mysterious circumstances.
If that is Stephen, that he's going somewhere with a purpose.
You're watching the last time 30-year-old Stephen Kosher is seen alive.
December 13th, 2009, a white Chevrolet Cavalier rolled quietly to a stop at the end of a suburban cul-de-sac in the Sun City Anthem neighborhood in Henderson, Nevada. Then, 30-year-old Stephen Kosher, dressed neatly in slacks and a white button-down shirt, stepped out. A nearby security camera recorded his purposeful stride down the sidewalk, a portfolio or folder clutched in one hand. That was the last confirmed sighting of Stephen Kosher. November 1979, born in Amarillo, Texas, Stephen was raised in a tight-knit Mormon family. He'd earned his Eagle Scout badge, served a mission in Brazil, and graduated with a communications degree from the University of Utah. For a while, life seemed to be going well for Stephen. His journalism career was steady, and he had plans for the future. But when the recession struck in late 2009, everything changed. He lost his job in St. George, Utah, and money grew tight. Still, he stayed optimistic. His mother, Deanne, remembers their last call on December 10th, his voice full of hope as he told her he couldn't wait to come home for Christmas. But that December, Stephen's behavior became puzzling. He embarked on several long road trips, over 1,100 miles in a single day, visiting old friends and former acquaintances, including the parents of an ex-girlfriend in Ruby Valley, Nevada. He told them he was headed to Sacramento but never made the trip. Cell tower records placed him driving aimlessly across Utah and Nevada, buying gas and snacks. But the purpose of these journeys remains unknown. December 12th, Stephen's cell phone pinged near Overton, Nevada, and later he bought Christmas gifts at a Kmart in St. George. That night, neighbors saw him return to his apartment around 10:30 p.m., only for him to leave again 30 minutes later. Where he spent that night remains a mystery, but by the next morning, surveillance footage captured him driving into Sun City Anthem. The details of that final day are crucial. At 11:54 a.m., Stephen's car entered Savannah Springs Avenue's cul-de-sac. 6 minutes later, security footage showed him walking away from the vehicle, carrying what looked like a portfolio. Another camera on Evening Light Street caught his reflection as he walked north, his last verified movement. But Stephen's phone remained active for nearly 48 more hours. Around 5 p.m. that day, it pinged a tower over 10 miles northeast, then again 2 hours later near Whitney Ranch, about 2 miles north. Early the next morning, it connected to a tower at the I-515 and Russell Road intersection, staying in that vicinity until the battery presumably died. The last activity was a voicemail check. It took days for anyone to realize Stephen was missing. The Sun City Homeowners Association found his car and traced him through a window washing flyer on the dashboard. When they finally reached his family on December 17th, panic set in. Stephen's brother and sister rushed to St. George, finding his apartment untouched, with his clothes folded, food in the kitchen, and nothing packed or disturbed. His phone charger remained plugged in, and the Christmas presents he bought were still wrapped, and there were resumes and job applications stacked neatly. The search effort was massive. Family and volunteers scoured jails, hospitals, and the desert surrounding Henderson. Police combed the neighborhood, used helicopters and search dogs, but found nothing. Surveillance footage revealed another vehicle in the area, but it belonged to a real estate agent showing a nearby house. Investigators found no signs of foul play. Stephen's car started easily, the gas tank half full. His financial records showed no unusual activity, just a single automatic web hosting charge. His computer and library records revealed nothing suspicious. Even narcotics dogs found no evidence of drug involvement in his car, despite theories about desperation leading to risky behavior. Every theory led to a dead end. If Stephen had planned to disappear, why leave Christmas presents in his car and nothing packed at home? If someone harmed him, why did the cameras capture him walking so deliberately, like he knew where he was going? Was it a job interview or a trap? And that portfolio he carried? Was it a resume or something far more mysterious? Private investigators have considered every angle, including a possible connection to the Susan Powell disappearance a week earlier. Susan was reported missing after she failed to show up for work in West Valley City, Utah. But there's no evidence the two ever met, and it was suspected that Susan was murdered by her husband. To this day, Stephen's family refuses to give up. His mother keeps the Christmas tree lit outside their bountiful home, symbolizing hope. His brother Dallin acknowledges the likely truth, saying,
I think the secondary tragedy is as the years move on, the memories start to get dimmer.
But the central mystery remains. How does a man vanish in broad daylight, leaving behind a trail of ordinary life? Food in the kitchen, wrapped gifts, job applications, but no trace of himself? In an age of constant surveillance and digital footprints, Stephen Kocher's disappearance stands as a haunting reminder that sometimes people really can vanish without a trace. If you thought Stephen's case was strange, the next one is even harder to explain. A boy who stepped off a train and was never seen again.
I just said, all right, you off now? Yes, he said. See you later. Yep. And that was the last conversation I ever had with him.
September 14th, 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden left his home, carefully laying out his school uniform, and vanished without a trace. This isn't your typical runaway story. It's still one of Britain's most haunting mysteries. Andrew was the kind of teenager every parent dreams of. Brilliant, reserved, and fiercely independent. He was on the Young Gifted and Talented program, a top 5% national academic honor, and had a perfect attendance record at Macaulay Catholic High School in Doncaster, South Yorkshire. His teachers described him as mature beyond his years, a prize-winning mathematician destined for Cambridge. But Andrew's brilliance came with a quiet intensity. He rarely shared details about his school life, preferring the company of books, video games, and heavy metal music. The day before he disappeared seemed completely ordinary. Andrew spent the evening with his family, assembling a jigsaw puzzle with his father and watching comedy shows with his mother. But the next morning he was unusually irritable and struggled to wake up, a rare occurrence for the normally punctual teen. At 8:05 a.m., a family friend saw Andrew walking across Westfield Park. apparently heading to his usual bus stop. But instead of going to school, Andrew withdrew 200 English pounds from his bank account and returned home, captured on a neighbor's CCTV. He carefully placed his uniform in the washing machine, changed into black jeans and a Slipknot t-shirt, grabbed his PlayStation Portable, wallet, and keys, and set out on a journey that would baffle investigators for years. Andrew walked to Doncaster railway station and purchased a one-way ticket to London for 3140 English pounds. The ticket seller remembered him because he refused a return ticket, even though it cost only 50 pence more. At 9:35 a.m., Andrew boarded the train to King's Cross, last seen by a fellow passenger who described him as quiet and engrossed in his video game. By 11:20 a.m., Andrew arrived at King's Cross and was captured on CCTV leaving the station, the last confirmed sighting of him. From that moment, he simply vanished. When Andrew didn't return home that evening, his family assumed he was in the converted cellar playing video games or doing homework. But as the hours passed, panic set in. Frantic calls to friends revealed he hadn't been at school that day. By 7 p.m., the police were involved, and a desperate search began. Initial investigations focused on family and local areas. But 3 days later, after speaking to the ticket seller, the police confirmed Andrew had traveled to London. The search shifted to the capital, focusing on areas where he had relatives and favorite museums. But no trace of Andrew was found. The family launched their own investigation, distributing flyers across London, especially near museums and exhibitions Andrew loved. They scoured CCTV footage themselves, locating crucial images of Andrew walking toward the station on the morning he disappeared, evidence overlooked by police. The investigation revealed no evidence of online, e-grooming, or internet connections. Andrew didn't use social media, rarely used his phone, and had no email address. His PlayStation Portable showed no signs of internet activity. Police seized school and library computers but found nothing. Over the years, dozens of unconfirmed sightings trickled in from across the UK. The most plausible one placed Andrew at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street the day he disappeared, and later in Covent Garden. But these leads were never fully investigated by the police. The Gosden family grew frustrated with how the investigation was handled. In the early days, police focused more on them than on expanding the search in London. Crucial CCTV footage from nearby streets, buses, and tube stations was never collected, and potential sightings went unchecked for weeks. Despite countless appeals, age-progressed images, and nationwide campaigns, Andrew's fate remains unknown. His bank account has never been touched since the day he disappeared. His family still hasn't changed the locks on their home, holding on to the hope that one day he'll walk back through the door with the same key he took. December 2021, 2 men were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking, and eventually their names got tied to Andrew's case. But after an extensive investigation, they were cleared in September 2023. Over the years, countless theories have surfaced. Some say Andrew went to London for a concert. Others believe he planned to meet someone, or even start over, inspired by a TV show about a man who vanished to live a new life. But the truth is, no one really knows. Andrew's disappearance remains one of Britain's most perplexing missing person cases. A brilliant mind, a carefully planned journey, and a trail that ends in one of the world's busiest cities. Andrew's case left a nation searching for answers. The next story feels almost impossible to believe. A man who entered a bar surrounded by cameras and people, and somehow never came out.
27-year-old has his life in front of him, might be getting married, going to be a doctor, and he disappears without a trace.
March 31st, 2006, Brian Schaffer arrived with friends at the Ugly Tuna Saloon bar in Columbus, Ohio, looking forward to spring break and his planned Miami getaway. The security cameras caught everything that happened that night. Well, almost everything. Because there was one thing they failed to capture, which was how Brian managed to vanish without a trace. Brian was a 27-year-old second-year medical student at Ohio State University. He'd lost his mother to cancer just 3 weeks earlier, but friends say he seemed to be handling things as well as could be expected. He was looking forward to a Miami vacation with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, and many believed he would propose to her on the trip. That Friday started normally enough. Brian met his father, Randy, for dinner. They talked about exams, Miami, and life's next chapter. After dinner, Brian called Alexis, who was visiting family in Toledo. He told her he loved her, looking forward to seeing her in just a couple of days. Later that evening, Brian met up with his good friend Clint Florence for a night of bar hopping along High Street. They visited several bars, each having a single shot of liquor at every stop. Around midnight, Clint's friend Meredith Reed joined them, and together they returned to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, where they began their night. All three were seen on security footage entering the bar at 1:15 a.m. Inside, Brian appeared to be in good spirits, but according to some accounts, he and Clint had a brief argument, nothing serious, but noteworthy given what was to come. Around 1:55 a.m., Brian was seen on security cameras talking with two women outside the bar. He said goodbye, turned, and walked back into the Ugly Tuna Saloona. That's the last time anyone ever saw Brian Schaffer. At 2 a.m., the bar closed. Clint and Meredith waited for Brian, called his phone, and searched the crowd, but he was nowhere to be found. Assuming he'd left on his own, they headed home. Over the weekend, Alexis tried calling Brian's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. When he missed their Miami flight Monday morning, she knew something was very wrong. Police launched an immediate investigation. They reviewed all security footage from the Ugly Tuna Saloona, which was equipped with multiple cameras due to the area's high crime rate. The footage clearly showed Brian entering the bar with Clint and Meredith, then again re-entering after talking with the two women, but there was no footage of him leaving. The bar's main entrance was under constant surveillance. There was a service door near where Brian was last seen, leading to a construction area with its own exit. But police said navigating that area would have been dangerous even for someone sober. Brian was seen in the footage wearing jeans, a short-sleeved polo shirt, and tennis shoes. Nothing to suggest he was planning to disappear. Investigators considered every possibility. Maybe Brian changed his clothes in the bar or donned a hat to disguise himself from the cameras. But an extensive review ruled out those theories. Could he have left through the construction area without being seen? Unlikely, but not impossible. Police scoured the area, searching dumpsters, alleyways, and even the sewer system. Cadaver dogs were brought in but found nothing. Brian's apartment was untouched, his car still parked outside. His bank accounts and credit cards showed no activity. It was as if he'd simply evaporated. Every person present that night was interviewed. Bar staff, the two women Brian spoke with, and even the band playing that night all passed polygraph tests. All except Clint, who refused to take one and subsequently lawyered up. Police never named him a suspect, but his silence fueled speculation. Tips poured in from across the country. Possible sightings in Michigan, Texas, and even Sweden were investigated. A phone ping in Hilliard, Ohio, months later turned out to be a technical glitch. 2008, a condolence message supposedly from Brian appeared on his father's obituary, posted from the U.S. Virgin Islands, but it was traced to a public computer in Franklin County, Ohio, and revealed to be a cruel prank. Some theorized Brian was a victim of the so-called smiley face killer, targeting men in the Midwest. Others believed he orchestrated his own disappearance, overwhelmed by grief or the pressures of medical school. But friends and family insisted he wouldn't have left without a word. Brian's father, Randy, never stopped searching. He scoured the Olentangy riverbanks, consulted psychics, and lobbied for better protocols in missing adult cases. Tragically, Randy died in 2008 when a falling branch struck him during a storm. The case haunted him until his last breath. 2019, a photo surfaced of a homeless man in Tijuana resembling Brian. The FBI analyzed it and ruled out any connection. 3 years later, authorities released an age-progressed image of what Brian might look like at age 42. Still, no credible leads have emerged. The Ugly Tuna Saloona closed in 2018, but the mystery remains. Brian's case left the world asking how someone could vanish inside a crowded bar. The next story asks an even darker question. How can someone disappear in front of everyone with cameras rolling? July 8, 2014, surveillance cameras captured a young German man, Lars Midonk, running out of the airport terminal in Varna Airport, Bulgaria. He left behind all his belongings, wallet, passport, phone, and sprinted desperately across a field toward a dense forest. That's the last confirmed sighting of Lars Midonk. He was never seen again. Lars was a 28-year-old from Itzehoe, Germany. He worked at a power plant, had a girlfriend, and maintained a close relationship with his parents. By all accounts, he was a normal, stable guy, without any history of mental illness. A week earlier, Lars arrived in Varna with 5 friends for his first trip outside Germany. They spent their days relaxing on the beach, swimming in the pool, and clubbing at night. Everything seemed perfectly normal until the last night of the trip. It started with a routine argument at a local bar. Lars, a passionate SV Werder Bremen fan, got into a dispute with some FC Bayern Munich supporters. What began as harmless football banter escalated into a heated altercation. Later that night, after parting from his friends, Lars claimed he was attacked by 4 men supposedly hired by the rival football fans. He returned to the hotel the next morning with a swollen jaw and a ruptured eardrum. A doctor at the resort examined him and prescribed cefprozil, an antibiotic, and advised against flying due to his ear injury. Lars insisted his friends stick to the original plan and fly home without him. He checked into a budget hotel near the airport, Hotel Color Varna, and that's when things started getting truly strange. The hotel's security footage showed Lars behaving erratically. He paced up and down the corridors, peered anxiously out windows, and even hid in the elevator. He called his mother, Sandra, in a panic, whispering that people are trying to kill him and begging her to cancel his credit cards. At 1:08 a.m., he left the hotel for an hour, returning even more agitated. The next morning, Lars texted his mother that he was heading to the airport. He visits the airport doctor, Dr. Kosta Kostov, who found him nervous and erratic, but medically fit to fly. As they talked, a construction worker entered the office. Lars suddenly panicked, shouting, "I don't want to die here! I have to get out of here!" He bolts from the office, abandoning all his belongings. Airport surveillance cameras captured his final moments as Lars sprinted through the terminal, out the front doors, scaled a 2-meter fence, and disappeared into a sunflower field bordering the Bulgarian National Highway A2. That's the last confirmed sighting of him. Theories about Lars's disappearance are endless. Some believe the antibiotic cefprozil caused a rare psychotic reaction. It can trigger paranoia and hallucinations in certain cases, but Dr. Kostov, the doctor who treated him, insists Lars never filled the prescription. Others think he may have suffered a mental breakdown brought on by the head injury from the fight. Yet his mother still stands by one thing: Lars had no history of mental illness. Some speculate that Lars was genuinely being pursued, perhaps by local criminals or the men allegedly involved in the bar fight. Others suggest he faked his disappearance to start a new life. But his close bond with his mother and abandonment of all personal belongings make this unlikely. Over the years, there have been numerous reported sightings of Lars across Europe and even in Brazil. None have been confirmed. 2019, a German truck driver claimed to have picked up a hitchhiker resembling an older bearded Lars, but the lead went nowhere. Lars Midonk has become the most famous missing person on YouTube. By 2018, surveillance footage of his frantic airport escape had been viewed over 16 million times. His case continues to fascinate and baffle, with online communities dedicated to unraveling the mystery. Today, his mother still holds out hope. She believes Lars may have suffered amnesia and is living as a homeless person somewhere, unaware of his identity. She maintains an active Facebook group with over 55,000 members dedicated to finding him. If you think this story's unsettling, wait until you hear about the next case on our list, where a young woman's hotel stay turned into one of the strangest disappearances ever caught on camera.
Police confirmed the identity of a female's body found in the water tank of an LA hotel. 21-year-old Elisa Lam disappeared several weeks ago. The Canadian tourist had been staying at the Cecil Hotel.
February 19, 2013, hotel maintenance worker Santiago Lopez opened the hatch on a rooftop water tank at Los Angeles' infamous Cecil Hotel and came face to face with a haunting sight: the floating nude body of 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam. Her disappearance and death would become one of the most chilling mysteries ever, fueling endless theories and internet obsession. Just weeks earlier, Elisa had been an ordinary college student from Vancouver embarking on a solo West Coast adventure. She checked into the Cecil, a low-cost hotel with a dark history of violence and death, on January 28, 2013. Her parents, Hong Kong immigrants, had grown used to her daily check-ins, but that routine abruptly ended on January 31st, the day she was scheduled to leave for Santa Cruz. Elisa's time at the Cecil quickly drew concern. Initially placed in a shared room, her odd behavior, including leaving cryptic notes and locking out roommates, prompted hotel staff to move her to a private space. The day she vanished, she was seen at a local bookstore buying gifts for her family, and later reportedly wandered the hotel, acting increasingly erratic. The most disturbing evidence emerged from surveillance cameras. Security footage captured Lam's bizarre behavior in a hotel elevator, pressing multiple buttons, hiding in the corner, peering into the hallway as if pursued, then suddenly darting out of frame. The elevator doors remained inexplicably open the entire time. Once released by police, the footage spread like wildfire, fueling endless theories, and a wave of online investigators determined to solve the mystery. Police search efforts initially came up empty. Scent tracking dogs lost her trail near a window leading to the fire escape. Her belongings, including her wallet, computer, and medication, were left behind in her room, but there were no signs of struggle or forced entry. The hotel's roof access was supposedly secure, locked, and alarmed, with only staff possessing access codes. February 19th, the grisly discovery came after guests complained about low water pressure and odd-tasting, discolored water. Lopez then found Lam's body face up in one of 4 1,000-gallon tanks supplying the hotel's water. Her clothes, similar to those worn in the elevator video, floated nearby. The tank's hatch was open, contradicting initial theories about how she might have closed herself inside. Autopsy results deepen the mystery. There were no signs of trauma, sexual assault, or foul play. Toxicology revealed only prescription medications, but in amounts far below prescribed doses. Investigators concluded she had stopped taking her bipolar disorder medication, likely triggering a psychotic episode. The official cause of death was ruled an accidental drowning, with her mental illness as a significant factor. But how did she access the roof? Well, investigators believe she used the fire escape, bypassing locked doors and alarms. The tanks were 4 feet by 8 feet, requiring a ladder to access, and they were difficult to enter or exit alone. Police concluded she likely removed her clothes to stay afloat as she struggled in the water, ultimately succumbing to exhaustion. However, the internet wasn't convinced. The elevator video's timestamp was obscured, and many believed parts of the footage had been edited or removed. The hotel's dark history didn't help. Its halls had once housed serial killers like Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger, and even Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia, whose gruesome murder remains unsolved. Despite that, Lam's family trusted the investigation's findings. Her sister described similar past incidents where Lam believed she was being followed, hiding under beds or in closets. The elevator footage, they argued, showed textbook signs of a manic episode with paranoid delusions. The Cecil Hotel closed in 2017 and was later converted to affordable housing, but its dark legacy remains. Lam's story inspired countless documentaries, including Netflix's Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, and became a cautionary tale about internet sleuthing, mental health, and the dangers of viral true crime obsession. If Elisa's case left you unsettled, the next story will haunt you even more. A young man on the phone with his father one moment and gone the next. May 14th, 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was heading home from a small college party near Canby, Minnesota, after celebrating the end of his spring semester. To avoid possible trouble from the police, since he had a couple of drinks, though not enough to seem intoxicated, Brandon chose to drive the rural back roads instead of the direct route along Highway 68. This decision would mark the last known moments of his life. Brandon had always been a responsible young man. He attended Minnesota West Community and Technical College, studying wind turbines, and had recently finished his first year. That night he attended 2 parties, but kept himself together, according to friends who saw him last. The last person to see Brandon didn't notice anything unusual about his behavior. Around 2 a.m., Brandon's car veered off a gravel road into a ditch near Taunton, Minnesota, a small town about 25 miles away from where he thought he was. He called his parents, Brian and Annette Swanson, to ask for help. Initially, he believed he was near Lind, a town closer to his home in Marshall, so his parents set out in their pickup truck to find him. They stayed on the phone with Brandon, trying to coordinate their location by flashing headlights, but neither side ever saw the other. Brandon soon realized he might be in the wrong area. He told his parents he could see lights in the distance, likely a small town, possibly Lind, and decided to walk towards them. He directed his father to meet him at a local bar parking lot there, believing he was close by. The call continued for a tense 47 minutes as Brandon walked. During the call, Brandon described passing fences and hearing water nearby. He seemed alert and oriented, not disoriented or confused, despite his earlier drinking, according to his father. But suddenly, the call ended with Brandon abruptly saying, "Oh shit," followed by silence. Multiple attempts to call him back went unanswered. He was never heard from again. At 6:30 a.m., the Swansons reported Brandon missing to the Lind police. The initial response was dismissive. An officer reportedly told Annette Swanson it was Brandon's right to be missing. They believed it was common for young men his age to stay out after the last day of college classes. Only after phone records revealed Brandon's last location was near Taunton, not Lind, did the search intensify. They found Brandon's Chevrolet Lumina abandoned in a ditch off a gravel road along the Lincoln County line. The car doors were open and the keys were missing, but there were no signs of a struggle or damage. Search dogs picked up a 3-mile scent trail leading west-northwest along field roads to an abandoned farm, then along the Yellow Medicine River. The trail ended at the water's edge, but curiously, one dog's scent crossed to the river's other side and continued along the bank for a short distance before ending abruptly at another road. Extensive searches with dogs, boats, horses, and ATVs covered over 122 square miles, but no trace of Brandon ever surfaced. Investigators questioned whether he accidentally drowned in the river, but his mother doubts this theory, especially since the scent trail appeared to cross the river. Criminal involvement has never been ruled out, though there was no evidence of a struggle. Brandon's disappearance highlighted a critical flaw in law enforcement response, especially the delay in launching the investigation. Inspired by this painful lesson, Brandon's parents successfully lobbied for Brandon's Law in Minnesota. The law, passed in 2009, requires police to begin investigating missing adults promptly, just as they would for missing minors, removing the previous waiting period and ambiguity that delayed early searches for Brandon. Brandon's family continues to keep their porch light on every night, hoping against hope that he might someday return. His story keeps being a haunting reminder that sometimes the last words someone says can echo in the darkness forever.